Pinsky and The Brain. This week's brain, Ming Chen.
What's up, everybody?
What's going on, Ming?
I literally roll off a plane and I come here to ease, and right into the Pinsky Triangle.
You've stepped in, and actually it's the three of us, right?
It is.
We have Lainey Labens with us today. Amazing. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you. It's an honor.
So excited to be here.
When I heard you were starting a podcast, and then I heard the title, and the dream was always to be a guest. And now I've, if you put something out there into the world, almost every time it happens, just for any kids out there listening, trying to achieve their dreams, just say it, put it on the world.
We call that setting intention.
Yes.
And it's funny because I think we were here to do your podcast. I think I just hijacked it. Is this a podcast takeover?
No, you know what you do is you do crossovers.
Exactly.
It did surprise me when you were like, Pinsky and The Brain. I was okay.
Well, that was
yeah.
So just now that we have that opener,
Yeah.
If you please, as you were.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No.
This
We're
is
on
your
a
show,
roll.
bro.
We're on a roll.
I'm
He just wanted to plug his.
Yeah, I was just being creative for a second.
I love it.
We're actually here doing Ming's show, so please, if you will.
I will. What's up, everybody? Welcome. This is Ming Chen. I'm not at a shared universe. I have gone west, everybody. I'm in Los Angeles and Venice, California, in fact, at the amazing Ease. And I'm here with Jason Pinsky, the chief cannabis evangelist here. And whenever I come here, I've stepped into the Pinsky Triangle, everybody. So hello, my friend.
Hello, greetings.
That's Jason Pinsky. Over to my left, introduce yourself, my friend.
Hi, I'm Lainey Labens. I've been on your show before.
You have. To great acclaim. Some creepy comments, perhaps. But you're a great friend and a steady force in my life. And
I appreciated that voicemail you left me the other night on my birthday. That was my whole family appreciated that.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Belated.
Thank you. I just turned 28.
Ooh,
Yeah.
amazing.
yeah, Pinsky, do you remember 28?
I think 28 was. No, I don't remember 28.
Okay. All right. So, Chief Cannabis Evangelist. Is this a self-proclaimed title? Is this an official legal title here
I
at
think.
Ease?
I am definitely the first of its kind.
Okay.
Right, the first job title of its kind in the industry. I think the role of an evangelist traditionally in technology companies, which is what Ease is, has been to really kind of. If you think about the first evangelist that I was aware of, it was a gentleman named Guy Kawasaki, who was Steve Jobs' early hire at Apple.
The very early.
Yeah, and Guy was really like preaching the gospel, not necessarily about Apple, although very much so about Apple, but also about technology,
Right.
And how technology had become this new industry. And really, people needed to understand all the different facets of it. So when I think of my job title here as Chief Cannabis Evangelist for Ease, I look at myself more as a cannabis evangelist than an Ease evangelist per se. I feel like, energetically speaking, the plant speaks through me.
Yeah, and just some background on Ease for anybody outside of the California area, and now Ease is expanded to Portland, correct?
We're in Portland and California for THC on-demand delivery. And then we actually, since the last time we've spoken, have launched Ease Wellness, which delivers to 42 states via mail order for hemp-derived CBD products. So anyone listening could easily check out ease.com, and you could order products, and then depending on where you live determines how quickly the products get to you, and then also what product assortment that you see. But unlike other cannabis delivery platforms, what makes us unique is that we are delivering on demand. So that means that once you enter your address, our technology is able to display a menu of products that you're able to get in about 15 to 20 minutes.
Yeah, which is crazy. It's easier than ordering a pizza.
We've been compared to there's the typical cliche of getting the munchies. So you can actually order Ease and a pizza at the same time.
Wow!
And the timing would actually work out in most cases. Here in Studio One, on the back lot of Ease, Venice. We've gotten deliveries in as quickly as 4 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's spelled EAZE.
EAZE.com, yeah.
Anybody listening out there, and if you're in California or Portland, hop on the website right now.
Yeah, hop on to
literally
The app.
hop on to hi.ease.com/Pinsky, and you'll be able to get a $20 discount off your first order.
Whoa! All right, that's an exclusive here to any Shared Universe listeners. To wow, I mean that's a good chunk right there. So
Yeah, I mean, these days you can buy an eighth of weed for $15.
Yeah.
So it's really amazing to have seen how the product pricing has changed through legislation that has made weed, legal. It's been amazing to see all the different ancillary companies that have come in to support the industry.
Yeah.
At Ease, we are purely able to exist because of partnerships. So we have retail partners who actually have the license to sell the weed,
Right.
and they're the guys who employ the drivers and do the deliveries. And then we have brand partners who are product manufacturers who actually have licenses to make weed products. And that ranges these days from flower, which is like joints, right? People call it flower. I was like, it used to be called weed.
Yeah.
It's amazing how the terminology has changed. But flower now, and then also every other variety of product that you can think of. There's edibles, there's topicals, there's vape pens, there's even the CBD product, like I mentioned, doesn't even have a psychoactive effect. It doesn't even get you high. It can actually help to reverse being too high in some cases. If you're a little too high on the weed, grab some CBD.
I've got I got a few friends who maybe overdo it a little bit. It's like, hey, take some CBD.
I think
chill out.
I think it's the new narrative on cannabis is that we've all had an intention of using weed to get high. For our whole lives and for our parents' lives and grandparents' lives. But 100 years ago, and from 100 years ago, going back to the beginning of time, right, cannabis was used as a food source.
Yum.
It was used in people's diets. And actually, if you eat the plant raw, okay, it doesn't have a psychoactive effect. So, when you actually smoke the bud, when you add heat to cannabis, that's having a chemical reaction
Right.
that actually activates the weed and makes it so that it gets you high. But if you think about water, right, we all know that we need 8 glasses of water every day to maintain optimal hydration.
That's what they say, yes.
And with weed, what we're discovering now is that the same ingredients, the same chemicals that exist in the plant naturally occur in our bodies. So when we consume the plant through eating it or smoking it or any of these different delivery methods, we're actually adding essential nutrients back to our body.
Right.
So think about humanity if we'd been deprived of water for the last century, right? We'd all be getting by, right? But essentially we'd have there'd be all sorts of issues related to people not maintaining our own optimal hydration. So these days we say, now water can't get you high, right? But weed, it's the same kind of theory. Instead of looking at something in a reactive matter, right, to get you high off weed, we're looking at it now as food, right, as an essential nutrient, almost like the new vitamin C, cannabis, right?
Cute.
And this is the thing, is that if you consume low doses of cannabis without the intention of getting high, and you just treat it preventatively as opposed to reactively, then all of a sudden what you're doing is you're supplying your body with the necessary essential nutrients that it needs. And then what is this called? It's called the endocannabinoid system. And the endocannabinoid system is the receptors that are in your body that are called cannabinoid receptors. It's the active compounds that the body manufactures, which bind to these receptors, and then it's supplementing with phytocannabinoids from the plant. And this maintains balance, right? We call it homeostasis. So this is why you see weed being so important for so many different ailments and so many different conditions, right? This guy, it's helping him with these kids for seizures, this guy with cancer,
pain
this guy with
management.
headache, me for pain management.
Right.
It's not the weed that works directly on all those things. What the weed is doing is it's adding tools to your body to help your body maintain its own chemical balance and health. If you think about everything from the common cold to full-blown cancer, it all starts off with a chemical imbalance and then manifests into, some sort of
the ailment.
disease
So if
state
you can,
or whatever it is.
if you can pull that balance,
this is what we're trying to do. Is we're trying to rewrite the narrative on cannabis as an essential nutrient in a non-psychoactive way. Right, think of your Flintstones vitamins. Well, maybe you're one a day, right? We don't want to, right? Think of your one a day vitamins.
Oh, the
right?
Flintstone vitamins are so much fun. Though. You get Barney,
it is true. It is true. But there is right now is not the right timing in the movement to really talk about who Flintstones vitamins are marketed to. As a matter of fact, different weed products are not allowed to have shapes of bears or anything that could
kids
be
might eat them and get high.
It's not really the right timing for that conversation yet. But that's how I'm trying to phrase weed as food.
Yeah, I mean, how's it going as far as the acceptance? Do you think there'll be one day you walk into a grocery store and right next to the broccoli will be cannabis, or even just a health food store where you can buy fresh cannabis to.
Well, it's funny that you mention it next to broccoli because essentially, we are talking about produce.
Yeah.
Right. It's the same thing, and I think the difference now is that broccoli, lettuce, all of these commodity products. Right. Think about how much it costs to grow a head of lettuce, or how much it costs at retail, and we've seen that happen across the industry. Oregon, for example, has just stopped giving out licenses for cultivation because there's a surplus of weed.
It's a huge surplus.
Huge.
Yeah, the laws now, Laney, say you can't export cannabis outside of state lines. And so in Oregon, there's this huge surplus that they don't really know what to do with that. I think they're burning some of it. I mean,
good for them. I would love to be next door for that.
Oh, right.
Okay, so everyone's having a really good time.
But that's what you're going to start to see is that as production costs decrease and as more people are able to produce cannabis flower, you're going to start to see it turn into a commodity.
Yeah.
It's interesting. The same thing happened. We talk about the link of the cannabis industry and the previous, industry that really took off was tech and technology. Think about it. I come from technology. That's my background. In the 90s, I had companies that hosted websites and email and did all sorts of hosting.
You're talking to fellow nerds here, my friends. We all had GeoCities websites.
I mean, we had our own. We were on FreeBSD.
Yep, I had Unix accounts. I used BBSs.
Totally. We actually had our own channel on FNet IRC called Haze.
Hashtag. What was it called? The hashtag back then. It was just pound and whatever channel you were going on.
So pound Haze was our channel, excuse me. And anyway, so back in the day, I used to be able to charge a lot of money for these services. Mailbox, $50 a month. Website, $500 a month. And then what happened, right? The tech products and services became commoditized because they became much cheaper to create and to host. And then you also had companies that were trying to build their brand. Like, what's your email right now? Whatever it is at Gmail, right? It's so all of a sudden Google's like, well, let's just make email free, but, we'll also advertise our domain in the process. So I think we're seeing a similar thing starting to happen right now in the weed industry where people building you like how I came full triangle?
Of course.
Right there?
Full
of course
triangle.
Took you right back, man. So I think that's what's happening in the weed industry is that people are starting to build their brands and really starting to make their brands more important in terms of customer recognition, trust. It takes an effort to make a quality weed product, but at the end of the day, a lot of people are going to be able to make a quality weed product. So then building your brand ultimately becomes the same thing. So if you relate that back to weed becoming like broccoli, or a head of lettuce. This is what we've seen. I mean, I just mentioned earlier, there's $15 eighths on the menu at Ease. Back in the day, it was 50 an eighth minimum.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So that's really what we're starting to see is that cannabis is turning into a commodity marketplace. And then companies are spending more of their money building their brand and earning that trust within the customer, so it makes it easier to actually shop.
Yeah, and your branding's been great. Their trademark blue billboards all around Los
I see
Angeles.
them everywhere. I always think of you every time I see them.
Really? Mm-hmm. Why just me? I mean, I'm just a spoke in the wheel. There's
But you're the
200 people
person I
here.
know.
Ease,
You're the
almost.
one I know personally.
Yeah, branding wise, are there laws where you can't advertise, or are you able to hit?
You absolutely have to fall into the compliance arena when it comes to doing anything in cannabis.
Okay.
And here at Ease, we are very serious about that. We've got an entire team of the company at a wing that's dedicated to compliance, government affairs, community affairs, public policy, all sorts of different things, legal team. So everything that we do within our entire ecosystem is always compliant. And when it comes to advertising, there's like definitely rules that need to be followed in terms of, including your license number or advertising, where a certain percentage of your audience is going to be over 21, different things related to that. But we're currently on a lot of billboards in markets and buses and like all sorts of stuff. And then I think the future of the company really is to be expanding the content opportunity and the event opportunity.
Yeah.
So that's really what I work on here at Ease, is like content strategy that not only could put our brand out there, but more than promoting Ease, it's important for us to be able to promote the brands that are on our menu.
Yeah, you guys do a lot of experiences, pop-ups. I guess they call them activations now.
Yeah,
even.
that's, I've set up thing called the Ease Oasis, which is basically like we'll go to music festivals or we'll do our own, we'll go to conferences, and it'll just be like, a experiential kind of thing where you can get to know our brands better. But then you'll also be able to order product and get it delivered on demand. So that's kind of like the event strategy, is the Oasis. And then on the content side, whether it's through a podcast or through our own original programming, or creating content that features brands, right? That's called product placement.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Product placement's kind of like been out there, right? There's never really been a way to create content that features products that you can get on demand. You see me go full triangle.
Oh, yeah,
Once
for
again,
sure.
you like
I
that?
have a more serious question. With this, the way that cannabis is going and how it's legal in more places and different things like that, how do you see the aspects of it that haven't been as safe in the past, like the criminal aspect to it and all the people that are in jail because of it, and where do you see politically?
Well, actually, it's
going?
interesting that you mentioned that, because we have laws that are written into the adult use legislation here in California that are specific to correcting a lot of the past. So, for example, if you had a felony on your record, there is a mechanism now for you to be able to have that wiped away. Okay,
great.
so that's the first thing. From a support perspective, we work with other third parties. We just did a promo. It wasn't a promo, it was a partnership rather, with Code for America. And they've got software that literally goes into the government database, looks for people that have been convicted of cannabis crimes, writes the application for their expungement, and handles the whole process,
Wow.
like using like artificial intelligence and stuff.
That's awesome.
Isn't that cool?
That's so cool.
Yeah, so we really are we're committed to helping to advance the movement, and this is really the difference between a lot of other companies that are in the cannabis space right now that are just purely looking at market share. Yeah. And it's not just a matter of looking at market share. It's also really a matter of like looking at the cannabis movement and looking at like the opioid epidemic and like, where I come from.
Yeah.
Right. Looking at like, I was never arrested, but I was on OxyContin for 15 years. Yeah. Right. So like October, by the way, Ming, will be 5 years.
Oh, congratulations.
Opiate free. Right. Yeah. So I think that's really like, part of the bigger picture, what we call advancing the movement while enjoying the moment.
Oh, I like that.
You like that?
Yeah.
It's definitely been a part of our strategy. And then also with the state, you need licenses in order to operate in the industry. And the state has preferential licensing for companies that have ownership for people that have been convicted in the past.
That's incredible. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so these are all things that are actually trying to like look at the last, century of prohibition almost, and not only really create like a marketplace and tax revenue, but also really, give those that have really participated in the cannabis movement in the gray area in the past an opportunity to continue to work in the industry.
Yeah, I think there's this misnomer since I don't live here. When it did become legal here, most people thought it was the wild, wild west over here, where like everyone's just setting up shop, and people are getting weed however they want. Anyone can sell it. Was it?
It was like that. Yeah, I mean, California had Prop 215, and Prop 215, existed for many years, which had the companies were cannabis collectives at that time, and you would sign up a bunch of patients, and then you were able to grow a certain amount based on how many patients, and then you were able to sell it. So the original medical program, right, for Prop 215 was very much often compared to the Wild Wild West. Okay, so that's the analogy that I think you're thinking about.
Right.
2017 was 2016, it got voted in for adult use in the election. 2017 was an implementation planning year. 2018 was the first year that the law went into effect, but still it was temporary licenses, and everyone was trying to figure out, how the rules would change every several months. So this is why we said 2018 was about sustainability.
Yeah, I just saw a great promo video that you guys cut.
2019 is definitely about momentum, and that's what we really feel that we're poised. So that momentum has allowed us to have an expansion plan that not only has us in Portland, but then also has us going into many other states across the country over the next 18 months, 24 months for THC on demand.
Yeah, I think you guys are going great. Going back to the broccoli analogy, food, the combination of cannabis and food is something that brought us together. Actually, our friend Chef Melissa D'Elia of the Food Pussy Weed podcast.
Well, also a featured chef on Bong Appetit.
Yeah, tell us about Bong Appetit.
Amazing. Shout out to Chef Melissa.
Of course. I'm not here if it wasn't for her.
And I'm never going to hear the end of it if we didn't.
You have to say something.
Yeah, you don't want to mess with Chef Melissa.
No, you do not. But actually, you do want to mess with Chef Melissa when it comes to food. And we realized that. So I produce a TV series on Viceland. We're actually on the air now in our officially third season. It's
congratulations.
The show's called Bong Appetit, and we were first a kind of like a dinner party show, where we would bring in a chef, and Melissa actually did a football-themed episode with us. We brought in a bunch of NFL athletes, and each week there would be a different cuisine and a different group of guests that we would invite for an infused dinner. Oh, cool. So my role on the show as a cannabis producer, right? Another first IMDb credited cannabis producer.
Yeah.
Right? So my role on the show was basically lining up a lot of the weed-related talent. Although in this case, I did, bring Melissa into the fold. This year, we have changed the format, and actually Be Real from Cypress Hill is hosting the show. And then our culinary expert, Chef... Vanessa Lavorado and then Chef Miguel Trinidad are our judges, and we've turned it into a cooking competition format.
That's awesome.
So that airs Tuesdays at 9 p.m. on Viceland. We're mid-season right now. But it's really been a great thing. And if you think about the Pinsky triangle, right, it's been media, weed, tech, and food. That's been my triangle.
Yeah, and you just described most of my life right there. The weed, not so much, but I'm getting more into it.
You should ask me how triangular geometry has 4 points.
How does triangular geometry in the Pinsky triangle have 4 points?
Well, a
Jason?
three-dimensional triangle. Jason, that was like my mother just now.
I know.
The Jason.
The way, the tone,
right?
too.
It was like,
All right, Jason, explain this.
Yeah, Professor Jason.
My mother used to call me Jason. Well, she always called me Jason, but that's typically when there's a problem. It's Jason, right? Jason Phillip, actually, to be more specific. No, 4-point geometry is actually in a triangular setup is called a tetrahedron, right? So it's actually a what looks like a pyramid, but more like a prism, right? Because it's got a triangular base.
Yes.
So that's really, I think, one of the things that's been, for me, is connecting the dots between my first love for music, right? My second, music and media, right? My second love was for weed, connecting the dots between those two. Then really integrating technology, which was my career for 20 years. And then at some point I added food into the equation. And Bon Appetit, ease, all of these things are just examples of how to connect the dots.
Yeah, and how valuable and versatile this beautiful, beautiful plant that we call cannabis.
Well, weed actually now is kind of like at the top, right? And then everything kind of flows down from that. It's now how is weed connected to media, and how is weed connected to food, and how is weed connected to technology. So I think that's most appropriate as it relates to why I'm like, the chief cannabis evangelist. It's such an awkward title.
No, it's cool. It's you're spreading a gospel about something that not everybody. You're opening eyes.
Yeah, I think that's important.
It's been long overdue. I mean, let's face it. But as I always say, better late than never. So.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, it takes a generational shift, right? So, like, we were all brought up, believing a certain thing.
Yeah, thank you, Nancy Reagan. Just say no. That's what I was brought up on.
Yeah, totally.
You don't want to mess with those kids who
I remember,
with the reefer.
I remember the commercial where. Remember, I learned it from watching.
Yeah, I wanted
you,
to watch it. Where'd you get this? Where'd you learn how to do this? I learned it by watching you.
For me, like in elementary school and middle school, they would be like, yeah, peer pressure. Mm-hmm. And then I grew up and I was like, nobody once ever pressured me into doing drugs because drugs are expensive.
Right.
Nobody.
Yeah. Yeah, not anymore. $15.
Yeah, maybe now.
At
I mean,
ease.com.
for me, I always knew that if you bought an ounce of weed and sold 3/4 to your friends, you get to keep yours for free.
Yeah, for sure. It's,
like my history in
It's
weed.
a young entrepreneurial spirit.
It wasn't. It was actually more of like, I guess the intention was not necessarily to make money. Right, but really just to be able to cover, my own weed.
Yep.
Yeah, I always do that with dolls, so I get it.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's a doll. Who do we have here? By
this
the way?
is Rowan. She's a super dollfie from Japan. So when I got my first super dollfie, I was 14 and she was very expensive. And I figured out that I spent so much time on the internet looking at these dolls, and I could see kind of where the trends were. So I would like save money and buy one that I thought was going to be worth more, and then sell it. And that's how I funded my dolls for a really long time.
So, like, was there always for me, if you were to come over, you'd see like 5 or 6 types of weed, and then eventually I would get new ones. So, what was the doll hustle like? I'm just curious.
Well, when I first got into these, they weren't available in the States, and there were no websites or anything about them. So I would sit on Babblefish, and translate text from Japanese to English, trying to get information about them because there was nobody would give you
Babblefish is like Alta Vista.
Yeah,
oh my God, that was
I was
dating yourself.
13 years old, pulling this information on, I think we were past dial-up, but it was really difficult. And then when I finally got one, it was a crazy story how I finally got one, and then I was like, okay, well, now I know everything I can about this doll. And so that's how I've always been. I had to have all the knowledge on all these dolls. And then I started a YouTube about them before anybody else had one. And it was like a whole thing. But yeah, that was a long time ago.
I love it.
But yeah, it's that fueled my enthusiasm. I think part of it was you couldn't get them. So there was this cool, nobody else had it. There's a weird taboo
This
about
is the exact same story of Sour Diesel circa 1995 New York City. It was exactly what you couldn't get. You know what I mean? And that was the thing. It wasn't as much about how much it cost. It was about availability.
Yeah.
And that's really, I guess, one of the, opportunities that still exists in the cannabis marketplace is, there's weed that like is available, and then there's still stuff that's totally like unavailable, really good. Someone was just talking to me about Snoop Dogg's weed. They're like, we don't want Snoop Dogg's weed. We want what Snoop Dogg's smoking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
The private reserve of Snoop Dogg's private reserve. That's what we want.
his tour manager would definitely call our crew when he came through New York back in the day.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's so much fun.
Awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
What's going on with you, Ming?
I want to open up a podcast studio in New Jersey called the Shared Universe. So we teach everybody who wants to podcast come in. We teach classes. We help people get started podcasting. I think everyone's got a passion and a voice, and I want them to get behind microphones and tell the world about that. I just love how like anybody could start this, or I can literally go from New Jersey to LA with minimal gear and sit down with you and record this, and we get this out to the world. Like this will be up 10 minutes after we're recording.
So funny that you mentioned that, because that's really, if you think about the relationship between weed and music, and then we talked earlier about this project I'm working on with Dead and Company. It was the Grateful Dead that really first started to allow for people to have portable recorders and go recording shows.
Yeah.
And then the same thing as podcasts today.
Yeah.
Right? Those shows that night would get uploaded. This is before the internet, so you'd have to get together with your friend with 2 tape decks,
right, and put them side by side.
Put them side by side and hook them up, and then you'd have to press record on one and play on the other, and then wait. Now, you'd be listening to music. What other great pastime to have weed? So there were a lot of us that were tapers at the Grateful Dead and at Fish. And a lot of guys that I know that came from the taping community, which is where I come from, were also like growing weed on the side. And so the first things to go viral, right, before the Pinsky and The Brain podcast or any of the viral content of dolls on YouTube was
the Dead Tour of
Dead
74,
tapes, man. Totally, dude.
Lansing, Michigan, as
Winterland 77, actually, man. But yeah, exactly. So it's interesting to see that, and then if you equate that to weed, right? Seeds. People would bring weed on tour. So if you started Dead Tour in California and wound up in New York and you stopped in 10 different cities and you had like a pound of weed that you were selling eighths and quarters on Shakedown Street on the lot,
Shakedown Street.
Right? Then inevitably, like in those bags of weed, there would be some seeds. And that's how weed became viral, was by going cross country on the piggybacks of music tours.
Right.
These Grateful Dead bees. Yeah, the little
totally, man.
bees.
And then people would
pollen. And,
totally, man. So people would then take those seeds, and that's how genetics actually used to go viral across the country. It was like not as fast and different networks of. But yeah, it's amazing to see how there's such a connection between that and then what we're doing here today.
Yeah, for sure. So I was wondering for like 420 like weed podcast studios would work out here. That's one of the dream is to expand a shared universe.
Totally.
To share our universes with other cities, but with the weed culture out here, I'm always wondering if I could combine the two.
Well, let me tell you, you have an open invitation to come back to Studio One E's Backlot, Venice, right?
I appreciate that.
And this is what I'm really. I mean, if you think about the first time that we met, and then what I've slowly been putting together. I'm looking to take a lot of the same concepts that I put into Vice, who might not have the appetite to like sell weed on TV, right? It's not yet. And take some of those business models and incorporate them. Again, there's never really been a content platform where you can be engaged in content and be exposed to products that you can then have delivered in the same experience as you are watching. Imagine starting to watch a show and ordering through Ease, and then by the end of the show, you've already gotten your delivery.
Yeah.
Could you use Twitch, something like that, to stream?
Well, the problem is anytime that you get into other content delivery networks, you're always going to have to worry about their terms of service.
Right.
So that would
right. So like, so this is why I see it as an opportunity to really just broadcast it ourselves here. because our compliance team is never going to let anything out over the air that's not
Sure.
100% legal.
Yeah.
And because it's our area of expertise, and because we have already the relationships with the brands that are looking for, a lot of these billboards that you talked about before that used to just say ease will now say like ease times Old Pal or ease times Select or
I like
ease.
the one that's like traffic's bad. Or what, you know what it says? Like,
My favorite one is Lighters Cannabis Action.
yeah, that's cute. That's cute. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. However, if you're in the Southern California area, you can go to, what is it, high.ease.com.
High.ease.com/Pinsky. And it's actually all over the country.
Do you want to spell that?
hi.eaze.com/PINSKY.
Yeah, get $20 off, and if you don't live here, if you're traveling here, you can get it delivered to your hotel room.
Anyone who's over 21, when you sign up for Ease,
You
put in your ID, exactly, and then when you get the actual delivery, our retail partner will verify your license, and it's a pretty very customer-focused, integrated product, experience.
Yeah, and the technology backend is amazing. I signed an NDA, but I can tell you it's pretty amazing. It reminded me of War Games.
It
a little
reminds
bit.
me more of, would you like to play a game?
Yeah, War Games. Yeah, exactly.
Michael Douglas, right?
No, Matthew Broderick.
Matthew Broderick.
Matthew
yeah,
Broderick.
Matthew Broderick movie, yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite movies,
Oh yeah,
actually.
it still is. It still is.
Thermonuclear war?
Yeah, thermonuclear war, intercontinental thermonuclear war, something like that.
Yeah, thermonuclear war. Do you remember what the robot's name?
Joshua.
Computers?
It was
Joshua.
Joshua,
That was
yep.
his kid, right?
Yeah, it was this kid.
If you haven't seen War Games, really, it's like a classic. I'm pretty sure that like that, Weird Science, Revenge of the Nerds,
The 80s.
like, all the 80s
80s.
movies, man, were really like, go check them
And
out.
even though Lainey just turned 28, you're a student of the 80s films, correct?
Very much so.
Okay.
Yeah, my favorite movie of all time is Dirty Dancing.
Yeah.
So
No one puts Lainey in the corner.
exactly.
No,
Johnny Castle is the perfect feminist boyfriend. Go back and watch the movie through through that lens, and you'll be like, wow, this guy he's perfect.
Yeah, for sure.
They just made a reboot of The Karate Kid.
The Cobra Kai.
It's
Yes.
on YouTube.
So good.
It is.
Let me just tell you something.
Billy Zabka.
Let me tell you something. It is so good. Like I've fully binge watched it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, get YouTube Red. It's totally
know
worth
Billy,
it.
right?
I do. Billy Zabka played Johnny.
Oh,
Yeah,
amazing.
the blonde kid.
Johnny from
He's so
Karate Kid.
lovely.
Amazing.
We go to a lot of the same Comic-Cons.
Tell me what's been going on with you. You're on tour all the time. Like, tell us what's happening.
For anybody who doesn't know, I was on a TV show called Comic Book Men with Kevin Smith, and it was Pawn Stars in a comic book shop.
So good.
Ran for 7 seasons, and as you know, Kevin, big cannabis and weed enthusiast, evangelist, and promoter.
Yeah.
He always has been since he started smoking back in 1998 at the age of 36. Late bloomer, if you want to call that. But the nice side effect of the show is I got to go to a lot of Comic Cons, and I meet people like the guy who played Johnny in Karate Kid, or we had Ralph Macchio on the show. He showed me how to wax on, wax off.
Really?
He calls him Ming Yagi now. He's coined that term. It's like, Ming Yagi, what's up? So
That's amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's been really cool that I'm trying to integrate gaming, right? Because I have a background of I was never really into books as much on the comic side, but I've definitely got an archive of unboxed action figures, and my storage
Same.
room is just. Yeah, I guess the difference between being a hoarder and a collector of fine things is something I ponder often.
Yeah, we're collectors, whether
We're
it be
collectors, yeah.
action figures, comics, or strains of weed even.
But still, just through that whole genre, like a lot of the Comic Cons right now have also really integrated into characters, right? That became popular through gaming.
Yeah.
Spent over a decade in Azeroth on World of Warcraft, right? So this is definitely, I think, when I'm thinking about the future of weed.
Yes.
And thinking about the future of media. I've talked about this before, but your audience, I think, would really love it. I would like to. I have a white paper out there that I'm working on with one of my friends who was a producer at Blizzard, who's one of the first guys in at World of Warcraft, on the gamification of cannabis.
Wow, that's a whole nother world. That's a whole like magical door.
Well, I think the thing is that if you think about it, right, and think about everything that we've touched on in the last couple of minutes talking, right? As weed becomes more of a commodity, right? Think of Blockbuster Video versus Netflix.
Yep.
All of a sudden, you're subscribing to your video content.
Yep.
Right.
On demand.
On demand. Right. So now. I kind of came up with this theory when I got off OxyContin. It was a process of thinking about like my leveling up in World of Warcraft. And I had always been trying to lose weight, and I'd always been trying to get off the pain meds. This is after 12 years of being on this medication after 2 surgeries. And I finally realized, man, if I could level up characters in game, like I've got like three subscription accounts.
Yeah.
Each one is maxed with alts and mains and different classes and no matter what, I had the discipline to do my daily quests and to go into the game and to be able to like level up my character right in game. And then all of a sudden I thought about it and I was like, wow, man, if my goal is to lose 100 pounds and to get 100% off OxyContin, then maybe I can just treat it as such. And I just started to digitize all of my intake on food and water and exercise. And I treated it like questing. I wasn't leveling up my in-game character. I was leveling up my life. Ooh. Right. And that's, I think, really what would be interesting is to what if there was a subscription model, right? Similar to the way that I subscribed to gaming, or the same way that you subscribe to content. What if you could subscribe to weed, and then you could unlock different products and stuff through questing?
Or even like a subscription box,
Well, yeah, but boxes you just pay for it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be take this CBD every day, and get 100 XP, which will unlock you to a discount on the Ease menu, right? Or go get your friend to sign up to vote. And go over to cannabisvoter.info, right? That's the Cannabis Voter Project, which is a non-for-profit.
Take a walk from Venice to Santa Monica and back.
Yeah, or drink a glass of water.
Yep, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or but different ways to
it's like self-care.
And that's what really the narrative is on weed, right? If we gamify it and make it so that there's things that you're doing that are incorporating your contribution to the movement, and then you were rewarded. But not only rewarded in some experience points, but man, I was rewarded when I lost 100 pounds and got 100% off OxyContin.
Yeah.
Right? I leveled up.
Yeah. Well,
big time.
Yeah. And, your constitution definitely gained a couple points.
Well,
more
totally.
than that,
I think that's really interesting. I'm looking to take. I don't think I can add a 5th point to the triangle, but I'm looking to really try to get some sort of methodology for people to level up their lives through utilizing this plant.
Yeah, for sure. And you're also leveling up through podcasting. You have your own podcast.
Pinsky and The Brain. Backlot Studio One Ease. Right now it's. I'm actually could probably use some guidance on that. I understand that you help people with podcast.
I absolutely
production
do. I absolutely do.
Yeah, the production side is right now. I think I've recorded a bunch of different episodes. I've done some video stuff. Not sure if I'm going to be able to use the name legally. Right?
Oh, really?
Well, I don't know. I mean, there's It is close to
it's far enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, maybe you know someone.
We know a couple people. Yeah, I don't know about any of their lawyers or not.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
right.
Go. Sorry, guys.
No problem.
That's Lainey. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, for sure.
Having me, guys.
For sure.
I'll
find you. Yeah. Yes, you will.
We're gonna go downtown or down West Hollywood and watch Drag Race tonight. So.
I'm doing laundry tonight.
Wow.
That sounds okay.
Getting ready for Joshua Tree.
Oh, that's right. You need to talk about that. Okay, bye.
Bye. I think the door's open. If not, knock. Okay. Bye.
Yeah, Pinsky and The Brain.
Is that off?
Yes.
There you go.
Right, Pinsky and The Brain.
Pinsky and The Brain, Backlot Studio One Ease here with Ming Chen.
Yeah. How long have you been recording for?
Well, my radio voice, I think, just blossomed recently.
Sounds good. And
pretty good,
you
right?
sent me a couple. You sent me an episode. You're like, all right, not for release. This is for your ears only.
Well, that's the thing is that like just like anything else, putting it out just haphazardly, right? Like so, like I've been encouraged to kind of like not only put together like a season and really think about like how we would have a content strategy, but then also like looking at it in terms of how can we use this type of content to send out not only the right messaging, right, but then also just like any content strategy, it costs money to produce these things, right? So then figuring out how to either recoup that or even a way to make money for some of our brand partners and but it's not all about tying it into products, right? At the end of the day, right, you're not like listening to like Pink Floyd The Wall and like there's a Coca-Cola on the cover of the album, Every movie actually does have a big juicy Coca-Cola.
They always get product placement,
So how long are you on tour? Tell me what's going on with you.
I'm here for a Comic-Con called Comic-Con Revolution. It's all the way out in the Inland Empire in Ontario, California.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, a bunch of smart guys got together and they're like, wait a minute. There's a whole untapped market of geeks out here. There's no one throwing conventions out here. Let's throw a convention out here.
How often are you on the road doing gigs?
So this year, with the advent of the studio, with the advent of my own small business, I was trying to cut back. I really was, and it's not working. I thought with the show, unfortunately, we got canceled last year.
Okay, so I was going to ask.
Yeah.
You said we were on. You used past tense.
Yeah, we got canceled. I'm still in denial. I had so much fun doing that stupid show that I just.
How
wanted to
often
keep
were you
going.
guys in production?
It was not a tough schedule for anyone who thought it was a grueling schedule. We shot for about 8. We would shoot for 8 weeks every summer from July to September.
Right.
And I think by the time we hit our 4th or 5th season, we just hit this stride where it just almost ran itself.
Yeah.
The show. And
same production team.
Yep, same production team.
Amazing.
Same directors, same people, and we unlike a lot of these kind of reality unscripted shows, we had a lot of input. We would kind of like, all right, well, who do you want to come in this season?
Right.
We'll see if we can get them. And go pie in the sky. Who knows? And some of those people we actually got. We would make a list of stuff that we would like to see come in, product wise. They know I love G.I. Joe. I love Transformers, 80s toys. And
let me tell you, what an amazing show. How do people see it these days?
It is all 7 seasons are on Amazon Prime now. Amazon Prime Video, which everyone's got Amazon Prime now. So.
Yeah.
All 96 episodes have been archived there.
Amazing. I've got 41 episodes of Bon Appetit under my belt. And what an amazing experience to be able to do a production like that. What do you have next on the horizon?
I'm really trying to make the studio grow. First, you take care of stuff in your own house first.
Sure.
So I've never run a small business before. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm learning pretty quickly. The thing I'm seeing is that people are coming into podcasts. Their first time. They're scared. They've never done it before. They liken it to radio, and they're what do I talk about? What do I screw up? What do I flub? I'm like, just in our studio we have 3 rules. 1, don't break anything. We have a lot of pop culture memorabilia lying around. 2, don't steal anything because I've gone through great pains to collect it. And 3, speak freely.
Right.
Yeah. Just say whatever you want. If later on you decide you said something maybe disparaging or something that could get, if you're in an uptight job, could get you fired, I cut it right out like it never happened.
Is that so? So is that typically like? Well, I'm curious. Someone comes into the studio.
Yeah.
What's the review process? I've spent so much time in post, just making sure that I'm like, actually like. There's a difference between doing a live broadcast, right? How do you guys deal with that?
Most of it is just conversational, like me and you, like this, and I'll put it. I may make a few edits, but for conversations, you know what? If it happened. If you farted and we started laughing, that was part of the conversation.
Well, then and farting is always good content.
Yeah, for sure.
So tell me, how many different shows do you guys have?
I think we've launched over 50 shows in the year and a half that we've been open.
Wow.
Most of those shows that we encourage them to come back once a week. I'm like, listen, if you want to build an audience, if you want to grow this audience, if you want people to listen, you got to come back once a week because imagine watching. I don't know if you're like a Game of Thrones watcher, but that's.
I may have. Pinsky is coming.
Okay. Yeah. Imagine if you watched, an episode of Game of Thrones, and then you waited the next week and it wasn't there. They're like, we didn't feel like putting it up this week.
That's the same reason why you don't see Pinsky and the Brain really out there.
Okay.
Right? Is because like once you open up the faucet.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, people want more, and that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It means they've enjoyed your content, they subscribed,
right,
and they want more. And we've all been ingrained in our heads that new TV shows come out once a week. Remember the Dukes of Hazzard, all our favorite TV shows came out once a week. So I think that's still ingrained in our heads that if something comes out Tuesday, there'll be something new the next Tuesday. So I try to get people to come in weekly. Business wise, that's what, of course, we want that. That way we have a sustainable business model.
Well, how does it work? I mean, are you supported by advertisers, or are you supported by people coming in and renting out the studio?
Yeah, we rent out the studio by the hour. With that hour, you get a studio engineer who will make sure that you sound amazing.
Great.
And who's there for any questions or support. And after that, you're on your way to create your own amazing show. So we have everyone from real estate lawyers to the four dudes who just go out and party every weekend. And they get together on Sunday nights, and they're like, what happened? Did you get bottle service? Did you get laid?
Yeah.
Did you not get laid?
Right.
What happened? And since it's four of them, it's they fill up that hour pretty quickly. The thing I learned from that podcast is I'm glad I'm not 20 anymore and I don't have to go through that shit, because it not that I hadn't as much game as these guys do when they come into my podcast, or my podcast studio, but but the stories though, you get to live along with them.
And then how's the distribution? Do you guys have your own, how is it? We have people listening.
We have our own channel. If you go to iTunes, you can go to just search A Shared Universe Podcast Network or A Shared Universe. iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, TuneIn, Stitcher,
all of it.
Yeah, all the aggregators.
Amazing.
You can find it on there.
That's the other thing I'm I'm not ready to do yet is to put it all out there. But trust me, I'll be calling you.
Okay, yeah, for sure. So the episode I listened to sounded amazing.
Tell me about your experience with weed specifically. Like, how has it changed? Tell me about your earliest experiences with weed.
I didn't have enough game. I didn't have the cool friends who would go out and get weed in it. So I was never even. I was offered, I think, a couple times in college. I went to University of Michigan, and I was out of the Nancy Reagan era. So I didn't. I flat out. I never.
You just bought the gospel?
Yeah, I flat out refused it.
Really?
I did. I was like,
how has that changed? I'm just curious. So
I think it changed when Kevin started, basically evangelizing it, and I saw a man who started smoking late in his life, didn't really touch it beforehand, kind of went into the same attitude as I did, where it was bad. It was bad. If you smoke it, you're a degenerate. You're not going to get a good job. You're going to get all these bad things were going to happen to you. And I saw a man who smoked weed regularly and was more productive than he was previous to smoking weed. And if you saw him before, movies every year, books, a very popular website, great online store, and he multiplied that exponentially.
You think it was because of the weed?
I think partially, yeah. I think, he claims it was. I think partially.
Really?
I think part of it was as well. I think it actually made him more productive.
Interesting. I'd love to hear that story someday.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, and it became a major part of his life. So, and what I love about Ease is, when he would come out east, I was the Ease. I had to go. He would find a guy, but I would have to go and get it for him. And that put me in a tight spot because, I could have gotten caught with it. I never did. I was pretty good at not getting caught.
What were some of the ways? I'm curious how you used to smuggle Kevin Smith weed.
You want to hear a story?
Yeah, please.
One time, it was a rainy Sunday night in like the mid 2000s, and Kevin was coming to town, and I get a call. He's like, "Hey, I need to go from Central Jersey to Long Island. There's a guy with some weed, and I need you to get it and bring it back to me at the Four Seasons over in Battery Park." And I worked for him. He paid me a salary, but this was not in my contract or my job description. However, since it's Kevin, he's done me. He's Kevin.
We wear many hats.
Yeah. And when Kevin wants you to do something, you do it to the best of your ability. So I drove all the way out there, hour and a half through a rainstorm to Long Island.
How much weed are we talking?
I it wasn't even that much. It was enough for maybe 5 days. So, I mean, he smokes a lot, but half an ounce maybe, or
Okay.
not that much.
Do you remember what you spent?
I think it was like $500.
That would be probably about an ounce.
Okay, maybe an ounce.
Did you did you have to lay out your own money?
No, I got it from his accountant. Went to the ATM and got the money in cash. So, I drove up, and the meeting place was in front of a Jewish deli in Long Island.
Not surprising. Do you remember which one?
I don't. And I pull up, and the guy was in a purple BMW, and I pulled in, and he pulls next to me. I was like, all right, this must be our guy. I got out, went in the passenger seat, and made a little small talk with him. Older gentleman. Looked like just a middle-aged guy.
This was Kevin Smith's weed guy.
Yeah, Kevin Smith's weed guy. And I'm like, hey, how you doing? Great to meet you. This weather's horrible, huh? Yeah, just a little small talk. In the midst of the conversation, he puts a bundle on the center console in between us. And
Just a handful?
It looked...
Was it in a bag?
It was in a bag, and I was like, all right, well, that must be it. So I grabbed it, and I put it inside my own bag, and somewhere in that exchange, I gave him the money, and we're like, all right, thanks. Great meeting. I think I'm going to get going. And he was like, oh, aren't you forgetting something? Don't you want this? And he hands me a FedEx envelope, and I'm like, oh, this is weird. Why is he giving me more? Is this more weed, like a bonus or something? I had no idea what was in this envelope, but I grabbed it. I was like, all right, see you later. Close the door. He left. I get in my car and I'm about to drive off, and I get a call on my cell phone. I'd given the guy my number just in case anything went wrong. And he's like, hey, Ming, did you grab my dinner by any chance? I guess he'd been over at Whole Foods beforehand. He'd bought a sandwich at Whole Foods, and that is what I thought. I had no idea. He
put a bag on the console.
I thought that was it.
You thought that was the weed.
However, if that was a weed, it would have been like 10 pounds. Not, it was like a football size. It was a sandwich.
It was like a
sandwich.
A meatball parm hero.
It was, yeah. It was a sandwich.
It's like, yo, Ming, you got my hero?
Yeah, I had no experience really with weed or what quantities were. This is one of my first runs, obviously.
I was just going to ask, was this your first drug deal ever?
Yeah.
This was it?
Yeah, that was it.
First drug deal.
That was it.
You meet a guy outside of a Jewish deli, wind up taking his meatball parm and the weed.
I stole his dinner. So he went hungry, but he did not go poor.
Oh, you didn't return the dinner?
Well, he came back for it.
Okay.
He came back. I gave it to him in the window. I was like, hey, man, I'm really sorry. You got his dinner. All was good. Drove to the Four Seasons. Kevin got his weed. Everybody was happy.
Did you smoke the weed with
I did
Kevin?
not smoke the weed with... No.
So you were actually just the mule.
Yeah. I didn't... Yeah, I really didn't have many experiences with weed until I went to Denver about 3 years ago for a convention.
For a Comic-Con.
For Comic-Con. And, during the course of the day, me and this guy I was with, I was like, hey, let's go to one of these dispensaries everyone's been talking about. And I got myself some edibles, some chocolates, some gummy bears.
That was your first entry was eating weed, huh?
Yeah, I think so.
Interesting how we talk about weed as food.
Yeah.
Right? Smoking is like, look, man, smoking's just not good for you, right? Like combustion. And these days, so many people start out by eating weed.
Yeah.
I think you really have to be careful. Did you get too high?
I think I did okay. The chocolates are supposedly very measured. 5 grams per
5 milligrams.
5 milligrams. I'm sorry.
Yeah, 5 grams would be a lot.
That would put you into space.
Yeah, that's like 5 versus 5,000.
Yeah, 5 milligrams per chunk. So I took one.
Did you feel it?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I felt
really?
it. I felt it. Yeah.
What was it like? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I felt like I was floating and kind of almost out of body.
It's so interesting because you can't overdose on weed, right? But you can definitely feel a little too high.
Yeah, you can take too much, but you can't overdose on it.
Whenever I am like over edibled, right, I feel like the air becomes has the same volume as like water.
Yeah,
and just moving through time and space feels like much slower, and everything feels like it requires more effort, and it feels much heavier.
Yeah. It's not a bad thing. It feels...
Well, yeah, but it's the difference between, I guess when you're in water, if you have the right buoyancy, you're floating.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that's the messaging is really, if you're going to start with eating weed or chocolate or gummies or any of this stuff, start slow, wait. You know?
Yeah, for sure. Because that same convention I went to, the conventions, everyone comes in from out of town.
Sure.
So we had all these kids going, oh my God, I can get weed now. And they never they didn't know moderation. So they were getting 50 milligram gummy bears and eating them and freaking out later.
Yeah, 50 milligrams is definitely.
Yeah, especially if your tolerance
The worst thing. I mean, if you have to have your first experience with weed, you wind up eating a little more than a couple things.
Sure.
First of all, add some additional food into the equation. Caffeine is always a Coca-Cola would go a huge long way.
Okay.
In terms of that, if you have access to any CBD, then certainly that can help. But the main message here is that it can't kill you.
No.
Right? Like the worst thing that's going to happen is you'll fall asleep.
Right.
Right. And then also just be careful mixing edibles with alcohol because sometimes it can enhance the effect of the alcohol, and then you might feel nauseous or whatnot. It's not the weed; it's actually the alcohol like kicking in.
And just reacting a little more.
Wow.
And I love food just as you do. So I thought eating it would be a good first experience.
What are your plans for dinner? Is it going to be the Texas style In-N-Out once again? Or,
well, now I'm in LA, so I can have the LA style In-N-Out, which doesn't differ that much. But
what is LA? Is that an actual style? What was Texas style you mentioned?
Oh, I just I posted a photo. I was in Dallas 2 days ago.
So there is no actual secret menu like I want it animal style or
like Texas style, where they put brisket on it or something.
Something like that. No. That would be so awesome.
As you know, In-N-Out's so good is because they're so consistent across the board. You get the same animal style double in Dallas as you do in Indio, California.
Well, that's what people are trying to do with weed. There's different brands of weed that are in different states, and then having them be consistent is always difficult, I should say. Maybe they can take a lesson from the family,
the In-N-Out family.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, for any In-N-Out enthusiast, everyone's like, why aren't they in New York? Why aren't they in Chicago? And that's that
quality control,
tightly quality controlled. That they know that if it goes that far, it's not going to be as good.
Plus, it wouldn't even be like there is something to be said. I got one down the block from me here in Venice, right?
Yep.
But
I know it well.
Yeah, but truthfully, it's more along the lines that now that I'm here, I really am not going as often.
Sure, you don't go every day.
The novelty is definitely changed.
Yeah, you don't go every day, but it's there when you need it. It's definitely there when you need it.
It's not only there when you need it; it's there at like after 10 from 10 to 1:30 in the morning when you need it.
Yeah, for sure.
When here on the beach is like, I'm from New York City.
Yeah.
Like, there's never a shortage of anything open at any hour. And then here, I chose to relocate right from the city to the beach.
Yeah.
And
it's a big difference.
Oh my God. Food shuts down at 9:30, 10 o'clock, you're done.
Yeah.
Right. So that's been like the 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. hit is the In-N-Out over on Lincoln in Washington.
You're East Coast guy. So you're New York 24/7. If you want, Mamoon's falafel.
Dude, Mamoon's and Wohop.
Yeah, Wohop.
Right? Now you're talking past 1 in the morning.
Yep.
Now you're talking about like, because back in the day, venues still shut down at 4 a.m.
Yep.
Right? So like when you're out seeing a show in New York City and then you get out at 4, you can either go to Mamoon's or you can go to Wohop.
Yep,
Those are the two things that are open downtown.
Exactly. And or if you're lucky enough to be passing by like a Gray's Papaya, then you're
I don't know if Gray's is
that
Gray's.
late?
Oh no, yeah, actually Gray's is totally that late.
Yeah, I believe so.
I missed that.
Yeah, 2 dogs and was it the recession special? 2 dogs and a papaya drink for $5.
Well, I mean, it used to be like $1 or like $2.
Yeah, things change.
Amazing. Well, I've been saying that actually about embracing change.
Yes,
a lot. If you think about how many experiences we have, and this has really been such a change of industry, such a change of scenery, so much stuff. It's like I feel like in the last several years I'm going through so much change, and people really fear change. I've been really looking to embrace it. Each experience that you have that might be a change from your normal routine breeds an opportunity to gain knowledge from each and every experience.
Yeah, and I've been trying to always tell myself everything happens for a reason, even if it seems bad initially. It may lead to
the best knowledge comes from the worst experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, for sure. So
Cool. What else is on the radar?
yeah, I think we covered a lot of
think we did
stuff,
good,
man.
yeah.
I think we've covered a lot of stuff. And people never really talked about my weed experience before.
I
so.
know. I'm wondering if we could use that.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Amazing.
Absolutely. I'm in LA first of all, so it's okay here. But yeah, now I'll smoke occasionally. I think I love talking to people, so if I know I'm going into a social situation, I refrain from it. But afterwards, after a long day, and you've definitely opened my eyes to many things.
Good.
Since I've known you.
Start thinking about consuming products that come from cannabis.
Yeah.
Without the intention of getting high,
Right.
And
I think
just
that's
as a
interesting.
dietary supplement and nutrient.
Yeah, for sure. That's something I didn't even realize was a thing. So
Well, that's the thing. Weed is food, my man. So on that note, it's Pinsky and The Brain, Backlot Studio 1 Ease, here with Ming Chen. Ming, thanks so much for coming by.
thank you,
And you want to sign us out?
my man, my friend. Thank you for welcoming me into the Pinsky Triangle. Thank you for sitting down with me. I know you're very busy, but I love that. Anytime we come to LA, it's like, hey, you got a few minutes for me? I'd just like to say hello and see what's going on here at Lee's, and especially in Studio One. And thank you for giving me so much time.
Amazing, Ming. Thanks so much for giving me the opportunity to spread the gospel one terp at a time.
Yeah, and you know what? Thank you for sharing your universe with me, because this is the reason why we started.
Amazing.
All of this.
All right.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Signing off. Thank you, everybody.